Hey 12th, here I am in the middle of the Flint Hills, one of my favorite places to be, out in God's creation, a place where definitely He restores my soul. And just wanted to give you guys a shout out and share a couple things that are on my heart these days. One of them is something I've been thinking about the last couple weeks. Remember when we did the series on the new wine and the new wineskins, and we talked about the reality that God is on mission to reach lost people, and He'll do new things, whatever it takes to reach people. And that frequently requires new things, which means change. And new wine will come into our lives, and we need to adapt to the new wineskins. And when we did that, I told you guys that wasn't a shot across the bow that we were going to upend everything at 12th this year. But little did I know that God was going to do a work in this world that was going to be a new wine, and where He would strip away from us all the foundations that I think we've built our lives upon or trusted in, and the things that distract lost people from Him and even distract us from Him, and how we have to build new wineskins to minister in this reality. And I just want you to know that the deacons and the staff, who are, by the way, the avengers of ministry teams around the world, that we are working hard to work on those wineskins and to minister as best we can in the reality that we find ourselves in. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot, is the reality that we're frantically every day working on those wineskins. The other thing I've been thinking about a lot is a topic that's just come into my view this week as I keep my pulse on culture. I read things, I look around, I observe, I talk to individuals. I can tell that something is happening, I feel like, spiritually among us, and it's something that our human bent is towards, which is drift. It's so easy for our hearts to drift from God. I just have that sense that initial the questioning and the exploring that a lot of people were doing, seeking God and looking, that some of that may not be as strong. Not sure, but just wondering. And I do know that as I speak to some different believers that are around me and people that initial push into God that happened those first couple weeks, now that we're getting used to this new reality, that there's been just some drift spiritually among us, we all struggle with that, me included. I'm not exempt in any way. And so just want to challenge all of us to be aware of that, and to take this week to dig into God, to replant ourselves in Him, so that we're in that abiding relationship with Him, so that we can keep that drift from happening. One of my favorite authors and quotes relating to drift is A.W. Tozer, and he wrote a really profound article, and I want to quote part of it to you. It's called "The Hunger of the Wilderness." And he says that no matter how well prepared the soil, how well kept the fences, how carefully painted the buildings, let the owner neglect for a while his prized and valued acres, and they will revert again to the wild and be swallowed up by the jungle or the wasteland. The bias of nature is toward the wilderness, never toward the fruitful field. What is true of the field is true also of the soul, if we are but wise enough to see it. The neglected heart will soon be a heart overrun with worldly thoughts. The neglected life will soon become a moral chaos. And I think we know the reality of that so much from our own experience. That's why the great hymn, "Come Thou Fount," says that we're prone to wander, Lord. I feel it, prone to leave the God that I love. And that's why the author of Hebrews in chapter 2:1, that he wrote that we must pay more careful attention to what we've heard so that we do not drift from it. So here's my challenge this week. I want to give you the challenge of the word rhythm. When we did the Christ Community Cause series, we talked about that there was a disciples' rhythm. Jesus lived His life in a rhythm, and we're to follow that rhythm. And I quoted during that series Barry Jones, who said that evangelical Christians in America, that we have a collective sense of arrhythmia, that we have lost a lot of the spiritual rhythms that people lived into 100 years ago, or the ancients lived into 1,000 years ago, and that has hurt us spiritually. So let us really dig into the rhythms of the spiritual life and the practices that fit into those rhythms. So I challenge you to dig into and reestablish that daily rhythm of being in the Word with Him. Make it a set or a really similar time that you're listening to Him in the Word, that you are talking to Him about your life, what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. That you dig into the rhythm of that daily yielding of your life and submitting of yourself to Him. And really dig into those rhythms of community. I think it's easy even in these times to get out of that. Even that Sunday morning rhythm of gathering, it's so easy when it's online, I think, to skip that, or everybody sleeps in late. And I really want to challenge you to keep that rhythm. Be online at 10 o'clock with us. Join us as a community. Though we really can't see each other, we're chatting ahead of time, 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. Keep that rhythm of being in that community on the day that we celebrate the Lord's Day, the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. Not in a legalistic way, not in a sense of earning points from God, but we need spiritual rhythm to keep ourselves from drifting. And keep the rhythm of community. Keep with your small groups. Continue to meet with them regularly on Zoom or whatever other forms you're doing it. And even those rhythms of meeting with the people who are your spiritual buddies, your accountability partners, the people that help you to be in the Word and help you to grow, the people you share your heart with, your struggles, your joys. I continue to meet weekly with my group of my five guys. And as we go through the New Testament, we have been pushing into Luke the last few weeks, and we have found that so much of the good news of Jesus in Luke's writing has spoken into our lives in the middle of the situation. It's been an encouragement to all of us to do that. So really dig into those spiritual rhythms. That's my challenge. And as always, I want to remind you to continue to be that non-anxious presence that our culture so desperately needs. Parents, I want to challenge you a couple of weeks in that really let us be the non-anxious presence our children really so desperately need to see. And that if we struggle with anxiety or our fears are creeping up, we're exerting too much control trying to keep everything working the way we think it should, that we just exhibit a sense of trust in a good and loving Father, a good shepherd who's in control, who's got us, and who's working all things for our good. So let us lead our families with that non-anxious presence. And then finally, just to remind you that though we are in quarantine, that Jesus, the great lion, Aslan, that he is not in quarantine. He is on the move. He is at work in our world. And the good news of Jesus is not in quarantine. It is on the move. And so we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And also remember, the week after that's Easter. So invite your friends to that online service. We're going to have an image posted probably Monday or Tuesday that you can put on your Facebook or send out an email to invite people online. It is a low threshold for those nuns to cross over into, to come into that online service. There'll be a lot of people wanting to do something for Easter. That's always a big Sunday. So invite one or two friends. You be there yourself. Let's be in prayer that God will do some amazing resurrection things in some lives, raising the dead to new life that weekend. And we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m.